So it's Robert Kiyosaki. It's another installment of Capitalist Manifesto. And in my opinion, it's a very important book because many Americans do not know what communism is. You know, I was fortunate enough to go to military school in New York, and we were required to read the Communist Manifesto as well as study Lenin and Marx and Mao. So, and my concern is America is going socialist, and as Lenin says, the goal of socialism is communism. So our special guest today, and we're interviewing people who have actually lived in communist countries like Cuba and Venezuela and things like this. So our guest today, everybody kept saying, you've got to get Yeonmi Park, you've got to get Yeonmi Park. So even my friend Caitlin and then other friend Patrick McDavid says, you've got to interview Yeonmi Park because Americans really do, not only Americans, but the free world really needs to know the difference between socialism, communism, and capitalism. So I'm a hardcore capitalist. I want to say one more thing, is I'm also a U.S. Marine. And I don't care if you're a liberal or a conservative, Republican or Democrat, Marines fight for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and our freedom to be who we want to be. I'm a capitalist. My concern is, and the reason I wrote Capitalist Manifesto, is our freedoms are being taken away, like our freedom of speech. So our guest today is Yeonmi Park. Like I said, everybody says you've got to interview her, but her story, and I listened to Patrick McDavid because I also interviewed Patrick because he came from Iran. Mm-hmm. And he has some very strong concerns about what's happening in America that happened in Iran. So Yeonmi, you were from North Korea, and yes. By the way, 감사합니다. You know.
감사합니다.
I love Korea. I love your food, love your country. And I'm just glad you're part of this program. I'm glad you're alive.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a really honor. I read your book like many years ago. It really changed my worldview. So it's very surreal to me that I'm even talking to you at this point. So thank you for having me again.
No, well, thank you. So I'm going to say, please watch Patrick McDavid's Valuetainment interview of Yeonmi. It covers what life was and is like in Korea, and it is shocking. I mean, what you said about North Korea sounds like America, about how the people are actually slaves to the leaders. They're just slaves. And North Korea makes a lot of money selling weapons and drugs and hacking and human slavery.
Yes.
So your interview with Patrick McDavid was spectacular. So please, us Valuetainment with Patrick McDavid and Yeonmi Park. But can you tell us what happened? How did you escape from North Korea? And what happened when you went into China?
So when I was 13 in 2007, I became very hungry. There was no more food left to eat. And then luckily I was being in the border part of North Korea. So at nighttime, I looked across the river and I was able to see the electricity lights coming from China. And if you see the satellite photos of North Korea right now, it is literally the darkest place on earth. They don't even have electricity for the people. So I wonder that if I cross that frozen river and go to China, maybe I thought I might be finding some bowl of rice. And that's when I decided to escape with my mother, and we crossed the frozen river to China.
And what you were saying was interesting. Again, I'm Valuetainment with Patrick McDavid. Says you weren't escaping for freedom. You were escaping for a bowl of rice.
Exactly. I mean, in North Korea, I don't know how many of you read the 1984 by George Orwell. It talks about doublespeak. Why is it so important to have the words to describe the concept? So in North Korea, they eliminated the concept like human rights, freedom, individual liberty, or even gay. So people don't even know what that is. We don't even know the concept of freedom. So when I was escaping, I was literally risking my life to be fed. It was like me trying to escape to go to America or be a spokesperson. It's just pure hunger drove me to like escape.
So, and then you were captured, and then you were a human slave, a sex slave.
Yeah. Mm.
Being respectful, but what does that mean? Because we hear like what's going on in America today in 2021 is you have more people crossing the border in a month than crossed all last year. And a lot of that is drugs, a lot of that is sex trafficking, and whatever criminal activity they can think of. But that's going on the Mexican border.
Mm.
So, what was your experience of being sold as a human sex slave? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm so heartbroken to see America right now. Like they're obsessed talking about slavery that happens like 100 years ago, but like the slavery is happening right now at this very moment, and I was one of them. In 2007, at 13, after I crossed that frozen river, the first thing I was seeing my mom being raped. And in North Korea,
Your mom
we
was
don't
raped?
have any sex. Yes, we don't have a sex education, so I don't even know what sex looks like. It just for me, it looked just horrible. And after they raping my mom, they told us that if we really want to stay in China, we had to be sold as sexual slaves. And I was very confused. Like, what do you mean you are selling me? I didn't even know that what human trafficking was. And they said the Chinese regime captures North Koreans and then send back to North Korea to be tortured and get killed. So for us to be captured in China by the authorities is like worse than death. Literally, it's like during the Holocaust, people go to like the concentration camp. They would kill themselves before they go to concentration camp. It's the exact the same concept. So they sold me because I was virgin at 13, less than $300, less than a phone on my hand right now. And then they sold my mom separately from me for less than $100. It was like $65 in 2007. But right now, at this very moment in China, if you go Chinese like Baidu or Google, you can get a North Korean girls like less than $900. That's how little like life costs right now in this 21st century, and slavery is happening right now. But nobody wants to talk about it. Something happens right now that we can make a difference, but they rather talk about that happened so many decades ago.
So when you watch what's going on in the border and you see all
Mm.
these young people, they have, Biden, save me and all this stuff. What goes through your head when you see that? Because you know what they're going through right now in America.
Yeah, so the thing is that like North Korea is a very unique country. It is the most one of the most oppressed country, and when we are sent back, we are gonna be either executed or sent to political prison camp and tortured and death. So when we escape, we are not like economic migrants. By the Geneva Convention and the international law, we are political refugees. That's why we call North Koreans defectors. When we escape, we defy the ideology, we defy the regime. So North Koreans have international law protecting them that you cannot send the political refugees back to their country. But I don't know about this southern borders crisis because I don't know what their like categories is in international law. And also, I mean, even though as much as I'm a refugee, I don't know what is the capacity for even America to accept them all. Do we become like Mexico eventually? Like I just don't know but I know what these kids are going through. Of course, they're very scary. When you are a refugee, you are not even a human. That's what I remember when I was a refugee, like I literally crossed the Gobi Desert to Mongolia from China by walking in 2009 in minus 40 degrees. That's how I became free. But of course, first thing I see in Mongolia was a soldier with the guns and asking me my put hands up. And I was like 15 years old. And then they take all my clothes off, stripping me out, and then check what I was hiding in my body. So I know like what it feels to be like a refugee. You're not even a human. Like we cannot punish people for their birthplace. But world is way more complicated than just being emotional about a fact. So it's very hard. Like it's such a complicated situation that I see in America right now.
And so for those of you who may not know this, but I crossed the Gobi Desert first on train, and second by Toyota, came all the way back. And Gobi Desert is huge. And you walked
Much
across it.
nicer. Yes, I walked
Oh my
with a
God.
compass in my hand.
I
Yeah.
entered from Ulaanbaatar and I went all the way across and then came back. It's a long way. And you walked across it.
Yeah. Because North Koreans, we can't even have a passport. Like other refugees, like they fly to America, right, with the refugee
Yeah.
cards. Like North Koreans, we have to walk, and that's why right now in America, Robert, there is only 209 North Korean defectors made to America during the 75 years.
Only 200.
Not in 209, yes.
What happens to the rest of them?
How do you know? Like my father, I buried my father in the middle of mountain in China when I was 14, and most of the defectors don't make it. That's why it's impossible to escape from North Korea.
So let me ask another question. You have President Trump. He went to meet with, he called him Rocket Man, Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And as a North Korean defector or refugee, what did you think when Trump went to North Korea to talk to Kim Jong-un?
Well, I really don't want to be those people like everything is black and white. What Trump did was amazing, is challenging China, what the Chinese regime was doing to the North Korean people initially. I think he got a lot of things right. But when he was talking to Kim Jong-un, right, initially he started with rocket man and threats, and bragging that his nuclear weapon is bigger than Kim Jong-un's. But then later he's like, I'm in love with Kim Jong-un. He's sending me love letters. So it was completely confusing situation where, but I think Trump was like outsider. He was trying to take a new approach to solve North Korea. That I appreciate. But the thing is that Kim Jong-un knows his game. He's been in power. His family been in this kingdom power like for 75 years. And Trump does not know how long of history this country has to be the hermit kingdom. So I think it was really sad to see how naive Trump was and giving Kim Jong-un that concession and legitimacy that easily. And Kim Jong-un gave up nothing. He didn't give up like nukes. He didn't set political prison camps free. He didn't do anything to be meeting with the president of the free world.
And there's one more thing is that again, with Patrick Bet-David on Valuetainment, Kim Jong-un was educated in Switzerland. So he is more Western than really North Korean. So he would understand Trump's psyche or ego, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
and Trump would not know Kim Jong-un.
No, that's the thing. Like Kim Jong-un knows exactly how the world works, like how the human beings supposed to be treated. He was in the middle of heart of Switzerland democracy, being educated there. But the thing is, he knows it too well that if he gives up his power, he cannot be a god in 21st century. Can you imagine being a god in 21st century? He literally has his own pleasure squad that raised since their birth for him to just pleasing him. Like, I mean, he's a god. He's almighty power that he can do anything. So he is in like a psychopath, I think. After learning all of that, he still can go back to that. I cannot like comprehend even.
Another thing that's to me very personal, and the reason I wrote Capitalist Manifesto, is right now I'm even afraid to talk to you because I may say something that YouTube or Facebook or Twitter will take me off or deplatform me like they did. President Trump's a friend of mine. And when they deplatform the President of the United States, that's pretty powerful. And you said here, so the most powerful weapon you had was your tongue, but you had to whisper all the time, which I'm kind of doing right now. I'm afraid to ask you questions I really want to ask. Right. So I have to whisper because you said they can take out 3 whole generations if you say something bad that the North Koreans don't like.
That is like something I'm grateful that you also see those warning signs in America that how quickly our freedom is like slipping away. The first thing my mom taught me as a young girl was, and don't even whisper because the birds and mice could hear you. And when you start, and to that degree of terror and oppression, I have stopped thinking. And I didn't even know what critical thinking was. But coming to America, I also learned, like I started my YouTube channel And I talked about, imagine if every North Korean had a guns in their hand, how on earth Kim Jong-un can do that to his people? If imagine everybody in Hong Kong had the guns this time, how China can take over like that? So I said, like, I think Second Amendment is great for people to protect their like life from the government, from the corrupt power. And of course, that video got like censored and like blocked and demonetized. And I was like, what is going on? I'm in America, in the land of the free. And now I'm like, in America, you gotta be politically correct. You gotta respect, the right pronouns. And I went to university in America. I was like, this is in some ways actually worse than North Korea, because in America, everything is recorded, like internet. So they can come back to you in North Korea if you're lucky, if nobody in mice didn't hear you, you can kind of get away. But here, there's no way to get away. And they can come back to even 30, 50 years later, and
Right.
even to my children. And that's what scared me the most, really.
Yeah, what you're saying is exactly correct. There was a guy, like I said, Ben Shapiro. I think he's a hardcore young man like you. And he talks about, he said things when he was 17, and he's now 30-something now, and they're going after him for things he said when he was 17.
Exactly.
And that's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like you should grow as a human, right? Like the things that I said when I'm 20 and 40, it should be different. But they can hold against you whatever you said like 30 years ago. And it is just unbelievable that I mean, to talk about even white guilt, because I'm not a white, I can talk about it, but it just reminds of North Korea that, in North Korea, your status, so the social 성분 status, class determined by what your great-great-grandpa did. So how did I have a saying in it? So, and then like if somebody in the great-grandpa was like fought in the wrong side of Korean War, then I'm becoming complete a hostile class in the bottom. And if my great-grandpa committed some crime and they execute him, they send 3 generations to political prison camp, or even up to 8 generations. So when one person does something wrong, when there was in top elite, something more than 30,000 people got persecuted. And a lot of them didn't even know that they were related to this person. And now I'm coming to America, they talk about your ancestors on the slave, like, yeah, but it's not them, they owned it. Like, it was like how many generations goes back up there. And this is like collective guilt. All of this concept is like so like North Korea. Like, what do you mean collective guilt? What do you mean collective? Like, we are all individuals. Like, how did I have even saying it when they're all enslaved, right?
And so then the thing again with Patrick Bet-David and Valuetainment, you said some things on that. Please watch that. It's fabulous. It's called oligarchy. And it's only the very, very rich are rich. And North Korea is a very productive country. I mean, they sell AK-47s, they sell rockets, they sell ammunition. I mean, but only the rich keep the money. It's very much like America, which I kind of like. But anyway, so America is becoming more and more separated between the very, very rich and everybody else. Can you see that happening now, or I mean, is that part of the upset with Americans?
So I can say yes or no, because I guess my standard of being equal is very low after North Korea, right? North Korea supposedly is a communist party and it's supposed to be the socialist paradise. So anyone should dream being like North Korea. But in North Korea, even though they got rid of private property to make everybody equal and to achieve the equal outcome, they made 50 different classes in the social caste system.
What was that?
And then you don't even have, yes, 50 different caste system in North Korea.
50 different classes.
Yes,
Of
in the
people.
socialist paradise. Yes. So you don't even know. You know it, like generally, in the big 3 categories in the bottom, middle, and the top. And then within that 3 big categories, they're like divided into 50 different classes. So this is the most unequal society you can see in the result of socialism and communism. And now, of course, I'm coming to America right now. Like the internet that I'm using, the president that he's using the same thing, right? The water that I'm drinking, he's drinking the same thing. So of course, like even though people say talk about inequality here, of course, like, there are people like owning jets, the private yachts, and having like 10 different homes. But when I actually did a volunteer work in the homeless center, what shocked me the most is like they had a refrigerator in the homeless center with full of sodas, and they had this electricity. Like, do you know that even the most rich of the rich in North cannot even afford that? Like imagining you turn a switch and the lights come in, that's a dream. Like that's something someone's fantasy
Right.
for North Koreans. So even though people are saying like this system capitalism like it results in the very extreme inequalities, like it brings a lot of people up together, but of course it makes ultra unicorn like rich people. But I don't care. Like my children is not starting to die, right? Like it just I guess I really have very different standard. Like I don't care when even the people say America is like racist, but like I see Oprah and Michelle Obama, the most like known women in my mind, and they're billionaires, and I don't care about that. Like they worked hard, they were talented, and so I guess I'm not like feeling this standard of like you gotta be complaining and resentful about everything in the institution, but I'm not.
No, what it is, you appreciate capitalism. You
I
turn up, you
love
turn on. I
capitalism.
mean, you should see Patrick McDavid, his Valuetainment. He does a great job on it. He has North Korea. There's black. There's no light. South Korea's light. China's light. North Korea's black.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, did you have electricity? Could you turn on the light switch?
No, we don't have a light switch
How did
because
you get
we don't
light?
need it.
How did you have light?
We we get lights few times a year when like it's Kim Il Sung's birthday or New Year's when the governments make sure that we have to watch the propaganda material. But the electricity they give is not even high enough, so we have to buy a transformer. I don't even know what like you think is
Right.
transformer to get the more
To light,
electricity
right.
light to be able to look visible. But if you cannot afford the like transformer, you cannot even see the few times of electricity. Like
But
in 21st century.
and you also said that you took a bath like once or twice a year because you have to go in a
Oh
stream.
yeah.
And everybody takes
You
baths
go-
every day here.
Yes, that's the thing. Another thing, like when I was watching this, like in Orange is a New Black, some American show. When I got out and then on the airplane, like if North Koreans live like what the people in prison in America lives, nobody ever escaped. Like imagine a shower, literally eating 3 times a day. That is like I cannot even imagine. Like my father like passed away not even knowing life could be this way, that you can be fed 3 times, that your daily life doesn't have to be every single moment survival. He never even knew that existence of freedom. I think that's what hurts me the most. It's not like I want him to experience this like life one day, but like if they just knew what this was, it would comfort me a lot. And North Koreans, to the point they don't even know what life looks like. They don't even know like an alternative life. Like we cannot imagine life on Mars right now. It's the exact same concept. Like they are in a different planet.
And you also said on Patrick McDavid's program that you grew up eating crickets for protein.
I ate dragon hoppers. I mean grasshoppers and dragonflies. They're really yummy though. So I think anyone obsessed with diet, they should go for it.
So,
Grasshoppers is really good.
so when you see all these overweight Americans walking around and they're complaining about capitalism, maybe they should go to North Korea and go on a diet, huh?
That is true. Like really interestingly, like I still don't get it because in North Korea, people are poor and they are very skinny. But when I came to America, poor people were like not skinny, actually opposite. I don't know fast shaming people, right? You gotta be politically correct. But it's poor means different thing in North Korea. You cannot like eat and you die from starvation. But poor means in America is a very different concept of poverty that I don't think even like poverty Americans can understand the poor concept of North Korea here.
So you said even the prisoners in America are better off than North Koreans, right? They get fed and they get baths and medical.
They're better than any elites. Like even in North Korean ambassador to the UK, right? They get paid for less than $1,000 for family to survive with their rent. So they go to the public gym to take a bath. I mean shower. as an ambassador to the UK from North Korea. So that's how elite being poorly treated. So imagine what an average citizen was gonna be. So other than Kim Jong-un, everybody suffers in the country other than like few people in the kingdom.
And you mentioned George Orwell, and you talk about how you can't even tell the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's
It is like
that's what I'm afraid about with America today.
it is, right? Like you and I already censoring, like am I like fat shaming somebody? Am I like doing something? Am I like what categories am I gonna like offend people? Like we are already doing that. It is scary as hell for me to even seeing myself. Like I was so trying to be politically correct until like last year before I started YouTube and seeing all the rulings, everything in Chicago. I thought, oh my gosh, in America, freedom is very fragile. It's like we gotta be vigilant to protect the freedom even in America. It's not guaranteed for me to even be free in America. That's like what I learned last year during the looting. It's like this is not a joke. I gotta do something to speak up even for American like rights. But like in North Korea, like you said, right, like we learn how to censor ourselves. We become masters. We don't have to do double think. That is a crazy thing I am. Like in school, I learned these songs like nothing to envy. And then in front of me, dead bodies all over. Like that was my daily life, seeing dead bodies. Like right before my escape, I had my stomach ache. And then my parents took me to the hospital. And of course, in North Korea, they don't have electricity, they don't have x-rays. So they literally just rubbed my belly and told me that I have appendix. They had to remove it that afternoon. They cut off my like belly without any anesthesia. And of course, it was not appendix. It was, but it's like common thing. They like cut your bones like without anesthesia. That's like very normal thing. They said, "Oh, you're just malnourished and you got infection." After they stitched me up, literally a nurse in our hospital using one needle to inject every single patient.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, I might get sick from that needle actually more. So people in North Korea don't die from cancer. They don't die from those things that kills you slowly. They die from infection and hunger mostly, and the fever. And most of people get like all like infection after the all the surgery. They cannot even like afford the penicillin. And in between my hospital bed to the bathroom outside, I was seeing these piles of dead bodies in 2007, and you see the rats eating human eyes first. And my mom was asking the nurse, like, why don't you move them like the bodies? And they said, we cannot afford the gas to move them. And this is like a hell, like on earth that you can imagine. And children eating these rats. And this cycle continues in North Korea right now till this day.
So when you hear Americans, complaining about capitalism
Yeah.
and what you've come through, don't you think Americans are kind of wimpy, kind of snowflakes? Just a bunch of complainers?
I think the fact that you know what complaining is a privilege to me, because in North Korea, we don't even know what complaining is, because every single thing is challenging in life. We don't even know what to complain about, right? Like one thing only allowed for us to do in North Korea is breathing, literally. What we see, like literally watching a wrong movie get you executed, listening to a wrong music get you executed, wearing wrong dress get you sent to prison, saying the wrong thing to the generation gets killed. Literally every single thing is control. Like the only thing I just remember that was allowed for me to do control over was like me breathing. That's it. So how do you complain in this scenario? What do you complain? Where do you begin? And we don't even know the concept of complaining. We don't even know the concept of critical thinking. That's why, like, when I went to South Korea, people saying, of course, Kims are not starving. They are dictators. And I was like, what do you mean they are not starving? Because in North Korea, they tell us like Kim Jong-un is starving. And they showed me a photo. Look at Kim. Like, he's the fattest guy. Like, everybody else is so skinny. So someone, like, literally had to teach me that he was fat. That is like death of critical thinking. You can't even look at the photo and like get the information out. Like he's not starving, right? It's so easy for you, but I couldn't do it.
Right. Final question is, what happened to your father? How did he die?
I buried him after we cremated him, I buried him in the middle of the mountain in China. And of course, in North Korea, we cannot get a funeral. We are fugitive. We have to hide. So after I came to America, my mom went back with someone, and then we retrieved his ashes, and now he's in South Korea with my mother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
So,
no,
you know, I want to thank you for your message to the fat Americans who are complainers. The next time they turn on the light switch, or they take a bath, or they get themselves a Diet Coke, they'll think about you.
Oh, I love Americans. I love this country. This is like, I might become a citizen soon, so I'm so honored to be part of this great country that is brave country. I hope that we maintain, guard our freedom of speech and do not give in to terror.
Thank you. And thank you for your contribution to the Rich Dad Capitalist Show. And good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you. Anyway, well, thank you very much for listening to another program of Capitalist Manifesto. And let's make sure we protect our freedoms. Once again, I'm a U.S. Marine. I don't care if you're a communist or a capitalist, a socialist or a liberal. We just want our freedoms. So thank you very much.